Hello and welcome back to Pokemon Colosseum. At the end of the last episode, we took on 2 more areas here at Mount Battle. We have finished all the way up until the end of Area 7, just 3 more areas left to go. However, even though we are going to be continuing our training, we are not going to be doing so here at Mount Battle. We are going to be moving on to another location. So we'll go ahead and open up the menu here and take a look at the move sets of each member of my party. One of them is about to change. And also just wanted to kind of show what my current moves are with my team, just in case it wasn't clear. So after the end of Area 7, I was about 200 Poke Points short of affording the Ice Beam TM, which is TM 13, and the Mount Battle Exchange Center. So off screen, I went ahead and did a couple more battles in order to gain the amount of points that I needed in order to purchase it. So we have TM13 Ice Beam, and we are now ready to teach it to one member of my team in particular. We're going to go ahead and boot it up, and we would definitely like to teach Ice Beam to somebody, and that somebody is going to be Marsha. So I had promised I was going to be doing this actually a long time ago. I think it was actually the very first time we actually came here to Mount Battle. Ice Beam is a great move. It has a power of 95, 100% accuracy, blast the target with an icy beam that also might freeze it. It's a pretty strong ice type move, and I think that Marsha is a good contender to learn it. It's going to add some nice type coverage, knowing that Marsha is very weak to grass types. This will essentially counteract that issue. So I think it's going to be pretty useful, especially against grass types. Now, something else that we have kind of left on the back burner was this email that we received from Nett. So we were able to pick up a piece of data from the Shadow Lab upon defeating Ein, and we have yet to do anything with it. So I think it's finally time to take a good old trip back down to the Under. The wonderful smell of garbage and pollution. We are back once again. We are revisiting the Under because, of course, this is where our good friend Nett currently lives, and we need to deliver him the data that we found back at the Shadow Lab, just like he was requesting. Go ahead and take the UFO. We'll go ahead and take this UFO elevator back over to the central part of the Under, and it is now time to head over to our best friend's house, who apparently appears to be 12 years old. Hi, Wes. Did you meet up with that Silva guy? He was saying something about going to check out Relgum Tower. But where is this Relgum Tower anyway? He may or may not have just name-dropped one of the next main location in the main story. Wink, wink. We'll go ahead and see if we can talk to Nett. Oh, Wes, did you go to the lab? Are both of you okay? We sure are. We're here in one piece, aren't we? I'm so glad. That's my hero. You're so inspiring. So it looks like somebody's looking out for us. Good to know that. We'll go ahead and talk to Nett now. Looks like he is very busy in whatever he's doing here. Oh, Wes, how did it go? Did you find any data? Oh, now this looks interesting. Let's scope it out right away. Alright. Oh hey, this data ROM appears to contain a list of Shadow Pokémon that have been made so far. Ah, but no, it looks like they've wiped the data. Wes, please leave this with me. I'll somehow try retrieving information from this data ROM, even if it means going over it little by little. Wes, as soon as I discover anything, I will be sure to email your PDA. Boy, have we heard that many times before. So essentially, we have, of course, given him the data ROM, but he is not, unfortunately, able to really find out any specific information right now. Which I guess if you're familiar, if you work in IT or the data industry, you are probably familiar to this as well. It can't always be deciphered right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to further analyze it. So Bit here is actually name dropping the final location of the main story, which is Relgum Tower. So if you remember the construction site that we saw long ago, that was actually transformed into a Colosseum. And not only that, it's an entire tower consisting of trainers that are located within it. We are not going to be heading out there right now, but we will be very soon. That is actually the final part, or essentially the final main location that we have left to explore in the main story. For now, we are actually going to do something a little bit different. Well, not really different from what I've been doing recently as far as training goes, but different in terms of how we're going to be doing it. So we have clearly spent a good amount of time over at Mount Battle. We've leveled up quite a bit, gained a lot of experience, but I'm not quite sure I'm ready to tackle the rest of the main story quite yet. I think we still need a little bit of extra experience, but the main reason why we are also here in the Under is so that we can participate in the Under Colosseum. So the main reason why I'm deciding to depart from Mount Battle and actually continue my training here is because there's actually some pretty cool TMs you can get by winning the various challenges here. Lady Venus used to say Shadow Pokemon were the best. I didn't doubt her at all. But that's not right. Shadow Pokemon just aren't right. The ordinary kinds are the best. Couldn't agree with you more. What does he have to say? Yeah, tough Pokemon is nice to have, but as far as I'm concerned, this one's my number one. Isn't that right, Makuhita? Maku. Alright, so we got some confident trainers here in the Colosseum, but I think it is time to finally take on this Colosseum's challenge. We did the one up in Pyrite above us, but now it's time to take on the Under, because like I said, you can actually get some pretty valuable TMs from these challenges. We'll go ahead and enter the first challenge, and unfortunately we will have to spend quite a bit of time here. Of course, yeah, double battles, we pretty much know all this already. That's pretty much every battle that is in this game. But yeah, we will also win a technical machine prize, which is our TMs, of course. I think it's time to take part in this 4-round challenge. So yes, unfortunately we will be here for quite some time, but I think that means it is time to speed things up. Hearing that kids call you their hero. So yes, just like with Mount Battle, I just don't feel the need to bore anyone watching this with a ton of battles that really aren't that special. We're most likely going to be seeing a lot of Pokemon we've seen already, so it's time to speed things along, starting now. So I think this is actually a great opportunity to talk about some recent news that has, I guess, been in the news lately. One of the most important things that has happened as of recent in the gaming world is Sony has officially announced that they are actually not going to be producing any more physical copies of their games for any PlayStation console starting in January of 2028. So real quick before we get into it, Apollo here actually is learning Psychic during this fight. Which is actually a great move. It is probably the best move that Espeon can learn in this game. It's essentially a much better version of Psybeam, has a power of 90 as well as a 100% accuracy rate, and it essentially does the exact same thing that Psybeam does, but is a lot more powerful, obviously. So we are going to forget Psybeam and let it learn Psychic, probably the most powerful attack it will have once again. Now that that is out of the way, yeah, that happens at level 47, so anyone using an Espeon, just keep an eye out for that, because that's a very good move. But now that that business is out of the way, going back to what I was saying, so I want to kind of talk about this topic of Sony being basically the first major gaming company to come out and just say, hey, we are done making physical copies of games. Everything is trending towards, the digital world, so it makes sense that we're just going to have you, just buy our games digitally. Even if you want to own them physically, doesn't matter. We're not going to do it. Which is also interesting because Microsoft, from what it seems like, is going to be following the same route based on what we have pretty much learned so far. Although they have not announced an official deadline like Sony did, it seems like that is probably going to be trending. Seems like they are also going to be following the bandwagon and trending in that direction as well. And from what we know from the GTA 6 release, that it is actually only going to be available digitally. There's not going to be a way to actually obtain a physical disc for Grand Theft Auto 6. One of the newer releases for the Xbox Series X. So they essentially are, I guess, hopping on this bandwagon as well by starting off with doing something like this as well. So yeah, I just want to kind of share my 2 cents and my opinions, as much as it holds any weight at all. I don't know if anyone cares to hear my opinions on things like this, but I'm going to share it anyhow. I think that this was probably something I think we all probably saw coming at some, in some way, shape, or form at some point in time. Although it does make sense that Sony would be one of the first companies to do this. I don't know. I feel like, big companies are big companies. They're gonna, do whatever they can to make a good profit. make some money, pinch some pennies. So it only makes sense. So essentially having backwards compatibility for consoles where you could play, physical copies of games on older consoles, on the newer consoles, it seems like those days are essentially behind us now, at least for Sony and probably Microsoft. Nintendo has yet to come out with any sort of news like that either, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did that in the future. I'm just hoping they don't right now. I would love to have, there's still a lot of games I have not even purchased for the Switch 1, and I would absolutely love to have most of the games I actually want. I would love to have physical copies for. I just don't really want certain games to have in just digital format. Maybe that's just me, maybe that's just my preference, but I feel like there's a lot of other people out there that would agree with me as well. And I think it is kind of weird. I don't agree with it right now. I think it's too early to just go with, hey, we're not going to have a physical copy anymore of any of the new games. I don't think that's, I don't think it makes sense to really do that. In my personal opinion, I think giving people the option if they want to own a physical copy, I just don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see them losing out on that much money just by producing physical copies of the games that they also sell in their online stores. I don't know. To me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, other than they just want to save any pennies that they possibly can, while also just completely disregarding what certain people actually want in terms of the people that actually play their game. So I imagine that Sony's going to have something interesting on their hands, where I think a lot of people might stop buying new games from PlayStation. We went ahead and finished the first round. It is now time to take on the second round of challenges in the Under Colosseum. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I guess continuing where I left off on this whole topic of games essentially just being digital, at least for Sony, and I guess for the future. I think this is something we probably could have saw coming from a long time ago. I just think in general this may be, I think it's going to be quite an adjustment for a lot of people that play video games. I think for me in particular, I think, again, owning a physical copy of a game just has a certain feel to it, and just a comfortable feel to it, to where you have the physical copy. One example I think that's a good reason to keep physical copies around is the fact that technically when you buy games digitally, there could always be a chance that you may lose access to it in one way or another. I actually watched a video of a bigger gaming creator talk about this in his video. He essentially brought up the fact that, what if, somebody doesn't have access to high-speed internet and they want to download a game, they own it and they purchased it, but they are maybe had to, uninstall it for whatever reason. Maybe they had to save room on their console or their hard drive or whatever, and they just had to uninstall it temporarily to play other games or download other games. What are the chances of them being able to re-download it if they don't have a good internet speed? And if they can't re-download it successfully, then they cannot play it if they so choose to. So I think that's kind of an interesting idea to kind of think about. So I think there's a lot of pros and cons to this whole thing. I think mainly there are more cons than pros. Again, the only pros I think that come out of this is just these big companies like Sony are going to be making even more money, or saving money, I guess, by not producing physical copies of their games. I don't know. I think this is probably the wrong move to do now. I do get it from their perspective, but I think overall, nobody at the end of the day, no big company really cares about individual, unless there's like a strong consent or I guess voice against this, where people maybe create a petition to bring physical copies back for the newer PlayStation gens. I don't know if it's anything that even matters at this point in terms of what the actual player wants or what the individual consumer wants. So this is essentially something that's set in stone now. They have a deadline for it. Microsoft's probably going to follow suit, and they're probably going to get a deadline for them as well. So I think at the end of the day, this is definitely a big move, a big change. And again, I don't think it's anything that's surprising. I think it's just something that maybe, I don't know, I wasn't personally expecting it to happen now. I thought maybe later on, maybe 10 years from now, or 5 years from now. Maybe that's exaggerating a bit in terms of how long it would take them to get to this point. But I don't know, that's my opinions. I've kind of rambled on enough about that. I just kind of wanted to spend this time, especially now, since I'm just kind of going through these sped up battles here to kind of gain some more experience, kind of talk more about this. But I don't know, I'm kind of in that camp that I disagree with it, but I kind of understand it. But yeah, I think it's dumb. I think Nintendo should absolutely be the last company to do this. I think that although, yes, it's Nintendo and they have been known to be greedy, of course, but I think they have done a better job than like Microsoft or even Sony in terms of like giving the players and the consumers what they actually want. So, I mean, for crying out loud, I don't think we would have gotten a Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake if they weren't actually taking the time to sit back and actually listen to the opinions of fans and of consumers. So I think there's a lot of things that we can actually bring up that would show and prove that Nintendo has done things to provide satisfaction for the consumer. You know, I don't know, I like to see good stuff happen, and I want the best for everybody, but overall, the people that are purchasing these games, spending the money to play these games, I think should get a voice, you know, in some way, shape, or form, and have their ideas and opinions heard at the end of the day. So these companies can make money all they want and profit off of people as much as they would like, but I think that if it just is more of at least a two-way street in some way, shape, or form, or at least moving in that direction, I think we would be much better off. So just my opinion. But that's kind of what I think about that. I'm personally somebody that, again, I think I already brought this up, would love to have physical copies of as many games as I possibly can. I think especially for the Nintendo world. I'm an Xbox owner as well. I have an Xbox One, but a lot of games on Xbox I just have digitally. So Nintendo's kind of one of those ones I just wish they would kind of hold off on making that announcement, at least for the time being. So we'll see. But that's going to do it for the second round of fights here at the Under Colosseum. We are awarded with another TM, and this is TM 36. We'll go and take a look at this and see what we got going on here. TM 36 is Sludge Bomb. Hurls Sledge at the target, may poison target as well. For now, we're going to go ahead and face off with the third round of challengers. Here we go. So I guess in other news, trying to think of some other things I can maybe talk about during this segment without sounding too boring and boring too many people in this video. I guess on the topic of physical copies of games, I've actually been, I don't know why, pulling out, I own a crap ton, and I mean a crap ton of old retro games, like GameCube games, N64, Wii. I never owned a Wii U, so I don't actually own really any Wii U games at all. So, but I have been busy playing the crap out of some of these old GameCube games. Like I cannot remember for the life of me why I never go back and revisit some of these games. Like this one, for example. Like this, I own Pokemon Colosseum as well, obviously, and I actually replayed this about 2 years before actually doing this playthrough. I replayed Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I've done a Let's Play of Luigi's Mansion recently. I played Mario Sunshine recently. I played Sonic Adventure recently. Like, there are so many games that the GameCube had during that era. And I've talked about this a lot in some of these games I've Let's Played, but like, I forgot how good these games were. And like, we're so used to the modern gaming era now, where we have like games that are essentially giving us things, you know, hand feeding us, like giving us everything we would ever want in a game. And graphically, you know, a lot of these games look really good. Like Breath of the Wild looks amazing. I've never played it yet, but it looks awesome. The new Luigi's Mansion games, you know, like Luigi's Mansion 3 was released on the Switch not too long ago. And there's just all these new games that look incredible. Such great QOL now, and everything is just like given to us on the drop of a hat. But it's nice to go back to play some old games that like really challenge you and challenge your mind and your brain, and how, you know, you play games now is completely different than how we played games back then as kids, at least. Like anybody that grew up with a GameCube, we went through hell when it came to gaming back then, because we had to work for a lot of the rewards that we got in some of those games, where I feel like nowadays, again, they're just kind of handing them out like candy but it's just not a bad thing. Like I really like what they've done with some of the newer games. Again, I've been really behind on playing a lot of modern games, like especially the Mario platformers, Pokemon. I'm very much behind on Pokemon, and a lot of the newer games for the Switch that I just have not had time to get around to. I think that we just are in a completely different world. Again, it's not a bad world; it's just a different world than what we had back then. But on the topic of what I was saying, I've just been replaying the hell out of some of these old games, and it has made me kind of realize, again, just all the differences with these games and what makes, you know, some games special over others. And, you know, some of these games do feel a little bit dated, and even some like the language and some of the cutscenes and dialogue, you think they would never ever try anything like that nowadays. But I don't know, like there's something magical about living in that era where like that was something special at the time. And I think that people that didn't grow up in that time frame where we had like the release of the GameCube, the release of the Wii, and all that good stuff, I think are definitely missing out on a period of time where it was just completely different. And I've rambled long enough. We have finally finished this next challenge. This was the third group of challenges, and we actually obtained TM30 Shadow Ball. Now, Shadow Ball is actually a move I was considering teaching Apollo. However, on second thought and actually researching more into this during the making of this episode in particular, this is actually not a good idea. So Shadow Ball is actually classified as a physical move in this game because it still belongs in Gen 3. Espeon benefits massively from its high special attack, which is why I was thinking Shadow Ball would be a nice move not only for that, but because it would be nice type coverage to have. But knowing that it is not actually a special attack until Gen 4, and I forgot about this, I have decided against doing this. So my Espeon will not be learning Shadow Ball in this playthrough or in this game. Because again, it doesn't really, even though it is still nice to have that type coverage, it is still a pretty decent move to have. It really isn't going to benefit a whole lot from it because again, it is classified as a physical attack in this generation. That does change starting in Gen 4, and I just forgot. So, but it is now, with all that said, it is now time to take on the fourth and final group of challenges here in the Under Colosseum. It is finally time to start wrapping this place up. Feels like we've been here for a decade or a century or something, but as you can see, even though this footage is being sped up, I am actually recording this commentary after I've recorded this footage. You can kind of tell, obviously. Yeah, you can tell that my Pokemon are quite leveled up by now. Apollo has actually hit level 50. We have a lot of other Pokemon that are approaching their mid-40s. We are doing pretty damn well in terms of level grinding here, as you can see. And another reason why I wanted to come back here, other than the TMs, was to do just that, was to make sure I was absolutely ready as much as I possibly could be for the rest of this game. Like I said before, we only have a little bit of game left in the main story, and I think this is the best time, more than any time, to make sure that we are mentally and physically and emotionally prepared for what's to come. And I also mentioned this before, we do have quite a large group of fights coming up in the next main area, because like I said before, it is the last main area for at least the main story in this game. We have more stuff coming up after the main game's over, just to, I guess, spoil it at this point, but that doesn't mean that what we have coming up next isn't going to be a challenge, because it definitely is. We are going to be facing off with the final group of fights in Pokemon Colosseum coming up after we are done here in the Under Colosseum. So I wanted to make sure that I was ready to go for all of that to come. So prepare for that. Again, if you played this game before, you know exactly what's coming up. If you haven't, hopefully I didn't spoil it too much, but there are still some pretty cool surprises coming up here very soon. I've kept one in particular one specific reveal that's going to happen here at the end of the game. And those of you that haven't played this game, you're probably going to be shocked. And if you're watching this and somehow haven't ever played this game before, you're going to be in for quite a surprise. I think it's a little weird surprise, but it is quite a very unexpected surprise. So, but anyways, enough of me buttering up the ending of this game coming up soon. Yeah, it is kind of bittersweet. I do love this game. I don't replay this game as often as I probably should, and I think that's mainly because yeah, it is a good game. Like, I will give it that. It has a lot of nostalgic value for me. I grew up playing this game and spent several hours doing it, and spent several hours invested into it. But I am out of breath. I am out of thoughts and opinions. Again, I'm hoping that this isn't boring to too many people. Again, I am going to try to slap some music in the background here, just to make this a little bit more interesting to watch, other than just hearing me talk forever about my opinions on things that nobody probably cares about. But yeah, I just felt it was, again, important to come back here to train and get these TMs. But overall, this essentially is going to be the last time we are going to be doing anything like this until we finish the rest of Mount Battle. Because, of course, I will be speeding up the rest of those fights other than the area leaders. Because they are really the more important fights of that area. And again, these are all being sped up because these are just kind of regular trainers. They are pretty strong, especially these ones here at the end, but and the ones that are in the, you have to compete against in the finals. But again, nothing too special here. We're mainly just kind of focused on getting these TMs and, again, getting more leveled up and stronger for what's to come. So, but yeah, I've kind of run out of ideas and things to talk about. So I guess we will just kind of wrap things up here and watch this battle play out as it does, and I guess continue to enjoy some of this badass music that I'm inserting here in the background. All right, now that is all over with, you can kind of see why I haven't really been taking on any of these other Colosseums, because man, this is quite an exhausting thing to do. Especially when you're taking on every challenge, you get all these TMs, it can be quite exhausting. But we have now in our midst, TM 23, which is Iron Tail. Slams target with a hard tail, may lower defense. So now that is all over, I think it is finally appropriate to end this episode here just outside of Nett's house. So next time on Pokemon Colosseum, we will head out for Relgam Tower, where we will face off with some of the strongest trainers that we have yet to see in the game. And also, we may see some other familiar faces there as well. I will see you later.